Oh, awesome. The Invisible to Invincible Summit. We're coming to the close. We have our final speaker of the day, Mistie Layne. And Mistie Layne is all about stepping up and speaking out, to share your voice with the world, to be transparent, to share from authenticity. And her topic today is become an authority on the survival side of adversity. And Mistie right now, she's where she is, they're experiencing an ice storm. And so if something happens and she goes in and out, we will make it work. We'll figure things out. Mistie, are you ready to rock the stage?
I think so. Can you see me okay?
Yes.
Hi. Hi,
It's
everyone.
all you, girl.
Hi, guys. My name is Mistie Layne. I am your empowerment resiliency expert. I am an award-winning, international best-selling author 9 times over, and I run women's empowerment retreats. I run preteen self-esteem camps for 9 to 12-year-old young girls. And I am doing action takers who step up and speak out anthology book at the moment. So, and I also have a full-time nuclear medicine career. So, yeah, and I've also moved my 80-year-old parents in with me to take care of them. So I'm a little bit stressed, but it's okay, right? So I'm here to talk to you today about how we can realize that after we've come through some type of adversity in our life, that we have got a wealth of knowledge, a wealth of skill set, a wealth of survival tools to use and give back to others. Oftentimes when we've gone through something in our lives, whether it was our choice or something that just happened to us, we tend to dwell on it. We tend to take shame or guilt or remorse, and we let those feelings just kind of put us like in a little cave, right? Where we don't come out into the world with who our true authentic self and our full potential could be, because we're letting those emotions hold us back. So what I'm here to talk to you about today is that you can be an authority on the survival side of your adversity. So instead of letting your adversity get you down and putting a mark on your history page, use it. Use it to put a mark on your future page of, I will stand up and share what I learned about what I've been through, because guess what? Here I am today. That means I must have survived it, right? Not that we're not still dealing with some issues, there's ongoing therapy that may still be involved. There's ongoing healing from some pain or some grief that's still involved, but you've still survived it. You've still overcome. You're still standing a winner. You're still standing in authority. So I'm here today to talk to you about recognizing the fact that you are in authority and that you can use that to give back to others. So I want you just to take a moment. Maybe if you have some paper, just take a couple of minutes and just clear your mind. And I want you to really think back about something that you've gone through in your lifetime. And it can be way back as a child. It can be something very recent. Think about one thing that you've gone through that you thought at the time you were going through it, that, oh my goodness, this is horrific. I'm stressed out. I'm never going to get through this. How am I going to get through this? Or feeling hopeless. Think of one moment in your life, one circumstance that you felt you were never going to get through. And I want you to jot it down on a piece of paper for me. Just take a minute, really clear your mind and think about it. And it can be something simple. It can be a project at work. It can be, a situation with a child, a parent, an illness, a death, whatever it is for you, just write it down. Now I want you to think about the time frame it's been since that happened to you. And I want you to write it down, whether it's been a month, 7 years, 10 years, however long it's been. And I want you to write that down. So what I want you to recognize about the number that you just wrote down is that number is how long you've been letting yourself be held hostage by that event, okay? And today is the day you're going to release that, because today is the day that you're going to realize that you are now in authority. You've conquered that event. You have survived through it. It's over. It's done. It's wrapped up. It's in history. You can't change it anyway. So it's time to accept it. And now you're going to see, what lesson did I learn from it? So I want you to think about that moment you went through and think to yourself, what lesson, what life lesson did I learn? And if you really give yourself the space and time to do this, you're probably going to start having many things that you're going to realize you've learned. I want you to start jotting those down as well. So things like, for me personally, I've overcome a horrific cocaine addiction. I went from medical school to prison behind cocaine. 32 years old before I ever did my first line of cocaine. I knew better, but I didn't respect that moment of choice. So for me, looking back now that I've gone through 10 years of a drug addiction, I did all the things I told myself I would never do. So I've been through prostitution. I've been through abortions. I've been through domestic violence. I've been through date rape. I mean, all the things that come with that adversity. I survived them. They were horrific at the time. I felt like I would never overcome the shame or the guilt from a lot of it. But here I am standing today, and here you are standing today, a survivor. So I want you to write all those things down. I now have empathy towards domestic abuse. I now have knowledge about how to get out of a domestic abuse relationship. I now have knowledge about addiction. I now have knowledge about the grief from abortion. All these wonderful things that I gained authority on. So I want you to make your own list right now of all these things associated with your adversity that you have become an authority on. Go ahead, take a moment, do it. I'm going to give you some space just for a quick minute. I just want you to really jot them down. I think you're going to be surprised at the power you have on the survival side of adversity. Okay, so now that you've done that, I want you to look at your list, and I want you to think about the people around you, just in your immediate circle, not talking about people that down the road or 3 departments away or 5 stories up in your work. I'm talking about just your immediate circle. And I want you to think about the people in it. I want you to look at that list of skills that you now have that you're an authority on, and you think, who can I help with this skill? And put their name by it. Then I want you to broaden your circle, and I want you to go out to acquaintances, people that you know from groups, organizations, people that you may just know from even Facebook you've never met, or whatever your source is. Just think about your bigger circle, someone you know that's going through something that you've been through, and I want you to put their name down by that skill that you now have. And I want you to recognize and acknowledge right here, right now, that you have power right here, right now, to use that knowledge and help somebody make a difference in their life by reaching out and just sharing your wisdom with them, sharing your pain, sharing your knowledge, sharing your journey, sharing your heartache, sharing your grief. And then I want you to share with them how you are living today as an authority on the survival side of it, and help them. You guys, the biggest thing we can do, I feel the biggest thing I can do in my lifetime is to reach out and help someone else with something I've been through. I mean, it doesn't cost you a penny to do it. It's free. And all it takes is a little bit of your time to help someone else. If you can reach out and lift someone else up today with the knowledge you've been through, what's holding you back from doing it? I mean, just think about all the people in the world that would do that. If you're going through, like, for instance, I'll use myself. I'm going through a really rough season. I've had to move both of my parents in with me. They're both 80. My mom has Parkinson's. She just got through cancer, and now she has Lewy body dementia. My dad has dementia and PTSD from the Vietnam War. My life is pretty much, I want to say, a living hell at my house with dealing with all of that. So if there was someone out there that had a similar situation and they were so overwhelmed and so burdened by it, they thought, oh my gosh, I'm stress eating, I'm doing this, I just feel like I never have time for myself. If someone would reach out to me and say, hey, you know what? I had to move my parents in with me, and this is what I did. And maybe these are some of the resources that I used for help. Or maybe there's some government resources that can come in and do this for you. Or maybe you might want to look at this plan of action and recognize that, value this time with your parents, even though it's overwhelming and frustrating and agitating, that value your time with them because they're going to be gone. And this person talking to me can say, you know what? yeah, it was a rough 2 years, but my mom passed. And I just want you to know, count your blessing. Anything. Just think about what that would do for me right now today. How much that would help. Like, I'm about to cry because I am so overwhelmed by it, literally in my life right now. But think about what you could be for that other person with your knowledge. You know, we sit and beat ourselves up so much in our lifetimes about all of our imperfections, about all the things. Thank you for that, Linda. Thank you for that. The last person that came on, I think it was Sally. Thank you for sharing. I'd love to speak with you about your journey with your parents as well. But think about, we go through, as humans, what we tend to do is compare ourselves to others. We're always trying to judge ourselves, if not being judged by other people. We always have the guilt, the fear, the shame, the embarrassment, all these things that are attached to us that we tend to carry around. And I just really want to make the world a better place. I try to make a difference in the world with my mark, however small or however big it can be, just to teach people that transparency is definitely necessary in the world, and that through our stories, through our transparency, through our honesty and authenticity, that we can educate and bring awareness around subjects that we never knew. And with that, we can judge less and mentor more. And wouldn't the world be a much better place if we could judge less and mentor more? And if you could have a part in that just by sharing what you've gone through on the survival side of your adversity, wouldn't that feel good to you? Instead of beating yourself up for maybe some poor choices, like mine was cocaine, some poor choices that you made in life, or beating yourself up for the why me? Why did incest happen to me? Why did I'll lose a child? Why couldn't I ever get pregnant? I'm not saying that those things don't have their space. What I'm saying is, instead of dwelling on those things and those emotions and letting it keep us from being who our full potential could be, turn that around and look at what you've survived. Look at what you survived. Look at what you've accomplished. I mean, my goodness, they call me the resiliency expert because if you read about my story, what you could do in my best-selling book, What Goes Up, you could read all about my journey and my story of everything I've gone through. I'm like a cat. I land on my feet every time. And, that's not all of me. I say I'm on God's mission, but I do take accountability for some of it. It's because I have that mindset that I'm going to stay positive, and I find that silver lining in everything. Every adversity has something in it to be learned from. And, someone at my work recently purchased my book, and they came to me yesterday at lunch and was telling me about my book and a quote and some things in it she read. But thank you for that, Linda. Linda put the link to my book up in the comments. But one of the things she reminded me that I have wrote in it is that the teacher is not present for the test. So I had to remind myself of the 10 years I went through during my drug addiction and all the things that I drugged my kids through and my family through, that I would say, why me, why me, why me? And I have to realize, why not me? Why not? Why am I so special? Why not me? But the thing is, in my life, I believe in God. So for me, I felt like I was alone. I felt like God wasn't there, but I was being tested. So the teacher isn't always present for the test. So I feel like I was going through a test. And at the end, when I needed God to be there, he was there for me, picked me up and carried me when I couldn't go anymore. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention, that every adversity has something you can find positive. There's a lesson in it. There's always something you can give back from surviving it. So that's really what I want you to do today, is just realize your potential of value that you have now that you've survived an adversity, and start giving back with it. Make a difference in the world so we can judge less and mentor more. Thank you. I'd love to have any questions out there.
Girl, you nailed it. Wow. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I know this is a challenging time for you, both with your work, what's going on, you have your parents and stuff, and you mentioned the overwhelm. And so, thank you so much for showing up, because originally we had you scheduled for yesterday, and
Yeah.
we had to move it to today because of, stuff that's going on there, with the ice storm that you're experiencing. And here's one thing about Misty is, like, she really is the resilience queen, because, things just, it seemed to happen, but you don't see them, and like, these things are happening to me. Why me? Right. It's like you were talking about. And I love how you live and embody exactly what you speak about. And so I want to ask you, like, what's been go ahead.
Can I say real quick something to that? And I would love everyone to adapt this mentality. I've learned to coexist with life as it happens. Instead of letting it get me down, I've learned to coexist with it. I accept it and I take what I can from it and I move forward, period. Yeah.
How did you move into that mindset? Because you weren't always that way, or were you?
I was not always that way. I used to be the why me, why me, why me. I think the first part of that journey was understanding that I have accountability in some of my stuff. I can't blame everyone around me for everything. I can't blame anyone that my parents got cancer and dementia. I can't blame anyone. It is what it is. And all of us have it. We don't compare our journeys to someone else, because we all have stuff in our lives, right? And it's equally as important to me as it is the next person. But what I've learned is take accountability for the part of it that I can control, and control that. And the rest, I just have to coexist and learn from.
Brilliant. I love that. I see Kristen has a question, so I'm going to bring Kristen up onto the stage. Kristen.
Love her.
Hi, Misty.
Hi, my girl.
I just have a question as far as that quote, the teacher's not always there for the test. I don't know what that means.
So for me, it's, I'm a Christian. So for me, I look at that as I'm going through some kind of trauma. And I used to question, where's God? Where's God? Why isn't he here? Why am I a crack cocaine addict? Why am I prostituting when I don't want to be? Why isn't he helping me? And I had to come to the realization that it was a test, and once I had overcome it, to realize I passed, not that I'm being tested, but that I felt like it was. But, the teacher's not always there during the test, but afterwards, I can learn from it and be taught from it. And that God was there for me when I needed him to be, to pick me up and carry me.
Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah, that's like the saying, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear, right? The reality is the teacher is always there. The student's just not ready. And that's what was happening, is you weren't ready to learn the lesson yet until after you had gone through it, like you said. There was something you said about, you had us write down something. Here's what I wrote. I'll show what I wrote. I wrote down narcissism, and that was the thing that I carry, or the lesson, right, that I learned from many years ago. And then I wrote out respect for my mom, and that's turning that disdain. I used to think, oh, my mom is so weak, because she stayed with the narcissist for 55 years. And I shared earlier, the first word she said when my dad passed was, "Thank God the bastard is dead." And that's actually how I start my chapter in this book, Invisible No More. And later, my life coach, she said, what if your mom was actually strong for being able to stay with him?
That's right.
And I said, oh my God, I never, ever saw it from that perspective. I always saw it I was so filled with anger, with anger, that I couldn't see the good.
Because you were looking at it, Linda, as how it affected you, what was happening to you, but you have no idea how it affected her. It was actually happening to her. It was her husband, but it was your dad. So it was two completely different perspectives. One of the chapters in my book is Never Say Never, and it's because you don't know what you're going to do till you're in those shoes yourself. So you can't judge, you can't say never, but I think it's very healthy. What you said is you will learn to see the other side of it, or a different angle maybe. That's very healthy, because that makes you more of a universal thinker, I guess, and more willing. I think it gives you more tools in your toolbox to be able to help other people with empathy and compassion when you can see all the way around something.
Yeah, and that was something I had to learn. I wasn't always that way. I was very one-sided, saw from the side of anger to the side of hate. That's where I lived. That is where I lived.
Right.
And so that one perspective right there, like, what if we flip it and you see your mom that way? That actually was kind of a catalyst for me flipping my mindset. And now, like, when something comes up, I say, you know what, I'm going to flip it and I'm going to look at it from the other perspective and see what I truly believe. So it's been an interesting journey for sure. And the teacher is not always present. Thanks, Kristen, for asking the clarification on that question, because I was sitting with it myself. I'd like to sit and see if I can figure out what the meanings are. And so thanks for sharing that. But then you mentioned what was it you said? How can I help with this skill? So it's through the skill, like, I guess, well, you can use an example of, because you were sharing about your parents. Sally mentioned that she's going through the same thing right now, with her parents. And I had my mom with us for 3 years. She lived with us. And so the skill that I learned through that 3 years, I guess, is to, even though it might not be something that, like, I'm teaching people, this is not part of my business, but this is some knowledge that I have that may be able to help others. Is that kind of where you were going with that?
Right. This is definitely not from a business mentality. I'm not speaking from a business point at all. This is a life point. This is just humanitarianism. This is about realizing how you can help someone else through a hard time, help ease some suffering, just about realizing that your adversity didn't break you, that there are skills and tools you gain from it, and that you're an authority on it, and you're a survivor of it, and you can actually use that. Even if you don't use it to help anyone else, which I think you should, but if you don't, realize it yourself and giving yourself that accolade that, hey, man, I kicked drug addiction in the behind, hey, I survived that. 3% of the people out there in the world, only 3% were ever going to overcome a crack cocaine addiction. And I need to recognize myself for whatever the reason was and circumstance. For my case, as you'll read in my story, someone died behind my cocaine accident. Or addiction, and whatever the circumstance that caused it, I still conquered it. I did. Misty chose to not go back on the drugs, so I need to give myself accolade for that. I need to lift myself up and recognize that, hey, you survived that. Instead of looking back at our mistakes and dwelling and wallowing in the self-pity and the remorse and the guilt, starting just to look at yourself differently and lift yourself up. Yeah, I went through a hard time, but man, I kicked that in the butt. Or, hey, I came out a survivor. Or, hey, that person, he abused the crap out of me, beat the shit out of me, excuse me. But hey, you know what? He didn't break me. Realizing that you're now a stronger person because of it. Not that he wore you down or changed you. Like a story in my book, a poem I wrote all about my abuser was that he changed me. In the beginning, he changed me. He made me timid. He made me afraid. He made me silent. He made me scared. He made me angry. But at the end of it all, I thank him because he turned me into this strong, resilient, brave woman that is now there to help other women out of it until they find their voice, because they do have one, until they can get the courage and the tools and the safety that they need to escape it. I can be there for them. And I thank him for that because, oh my gosh, I never had compassion in that area before because I didn't know it. I'd never been and I didn't understand it. I used to judge those women with black eyes until I was that woman. And now I get it and I can give back. So I thank him for that. I thank him for making me this empowered, strong, resilient woman. Anybody that knows me knows I feel like I'm a pretty kick-ass kind of woman right now. I think I've been through some stuff and it's made me pretty strong, and I'm going to acknowledge myself for that today. And I think all of you should acknowledge yourself for everything on your list because it's pretty big deal.
Yeah, definitely. I know earlier, Michelle O'Neill talked about gratitude, like having that gratitude and moving into that place of gratitude. That's part of how we, creating that invincibility within ourselves of who we are, that powerful person, that empowered person, right? Stepping into our brilliance and becoming that person we're here, that we're meant to be. And I love this. I just want to ask you one question. So when you were in prison, you were in there for a couple years. And what was that point there where you were like, this has got to change?
It happened really early for me because I went to jail awaiting a 40-year prison sentence for killing someone. I was slapped with a vehicular homicide charge and I was facing 40 years. So on top of killing someone and having to deal with my own personal struggle and my own will to even feel I deserved to live because it was my fault she died, okay? So on top of all of that, I was also coming out of a domestic abuse relationship and a drug addiction. So I'm thrown into an isolated area now to where I no longer have the drugs to hide behind. I no longer have the man telling me what to eat, how to dress, what music I like. So I'm left all alone now with just me. And that was very scary. And that was a very vulnerable time that I had to realize, Misty, who are you? What do you even like in life? Because I had allowed the drug and the man to take over. So I think it happened for me pretty early on. The first couple of months, I was just stripped. And I'm grateful. Like here's an example of what you talk about. I try to stay positive. It was a horrible time, don't get me wrong, but I'm so grateful for it, Linda, because it stripped me. And it's like it took all the bad things that I had allowed to come on to me, like all the torn and tattered clothes I had layered on, right? It allowed me to get rid of them and start over with fresh clothes, basically, and choose my own colors, my own styles, my own textures, because I didn't have anyone dictating that. I got to discover what I like. And that journey was so necessary for me. And I didn't even know I needed it prior, but I had needed it. And it was just the way it came out for me. And so I'm thankful today for it, because now I understand when I see other women that are in, any kind of like duress of any kind, I pick up on it real quick because I've been there. I get it, right? So I understand it, and I can talk to them in a way that they can receive me because I've been there. It's hard when you talk to someone like you know something and you really don't. Like the fakers, like we feel it, right? Because we don't connect. But when someone comes at you and looks you dead in the eye and they say, sister, I see those bruises on your neck, and I've been there, and I understand, and it's okay. Then they're going to accept you because they know you know, right? That's the kind of giving back I'm talking about, the real stuff, the stuff we need as women. We need those connections. We need the real thing. We don't need the fake. We need the real connections. We need to feel we're not alone. We need to feel loved. We need to feel respected. We need to feel empowered, and we need to know we're valued.
Yeah, what came to mind there was with my mom. Here I was thinking, again, thinking she was weak and all this stuff. And I was judging her because I had not experienced that. So just like what you're saying, I experienced it, but not to the level she had. Let's put it, because I was with my husband for 2 years and I was out of there because I decided I wasn't going to live my mom's life. 2 years, 2 kids, and I'm gone, right? And so like I was strong. Why wasn't she strong? And so I just had so much blame on her. And so like, how many times did we run away and then go back home? So when I ran away.
Yeah.
Right. So it's interesting how, to be on this side of it, to have that empathy, something I didn't ever have before.
Well, see, in her, and two, also for her, in her eyes, she may think it was a sacrifice of herself to keep the home environment intact for the kids. And whether it was good or bad, there was a lesson in it because it saved your life. Look what it did for you. You were able to get in, recognize, and get out. So her sacrifice of staying or inability to leave or whatever her story was already gave back to you, Linda. You see that?
Yeah. Yeah, I do. Thank you for that. That's, yeah, I never, again, from different perspectives. I love to see different perspectives. And that's what an open mind does, right? Come to conversations with an open mind. Sometimes it closes a little bit, but it opens back up. And so, it's interesting how just this whole world is kind of crazy, crazy interesting, right? Like, Linda, thank you for sharing about your mom. Yeah. It is fascinating how through our adversities and others' adversities, because that's what you're talking about today, is that adversity, and to be powerful over it, and to realize that those adversities are in our lives to teach us the lessons that they're to teach us. But we got to have that open mind. We have to be the student and have that open mind to learn them. And then what happens is we become the teacher.
Yeah. We move out of the victim. Instead of it happened to us, we move from the victim to the authority. So instead of being the person it happened to, you're now the teacher to prevent. So it changes your mindset, and that in itself is healthy, because you get out of that victim mentality. You get to drop it. You get to say, okay, check, been there, done that. Check, I'm over it. Check, it's gone. Yeah, I coexist with it. It happened. Did I have 10 years of drug addiction? Yeah, I did. I can't deny it. I can't change it, but check. It's not me today, baby. I'm done,
Yeah.
So it's about moving on from that victim to the authority.
Yeah, definitely. And I love that. So that's what sharing our story is all about. Again, that's like, you do journaling, you have your retreats and stuff. So why don't you share with everybody how they can connect with you, after this event?
So I have my website is stepupandSpeakout.com. StepupandSpeakout.com. Everything's on there you need to know about me. Mistie Layne at MistieLayne.com is my email. All things social media are Mistie Layne, MISTIELAYNE, which, by the way, is my first and middle name. It's my author name, but that is actually my first and middle name. Yeah.
What's your real
Mistie
last
Layne.
name?
Gengo. GENGO. So I'm Italian and Sicilian.
Okay, that is your last name. I didn't know that. See, all these years,
Yes.
I didn't know that.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Mistie, so much for being part of the Invisible to Invincible Summit. And so just so honored to have you here.